Okay. Hello there, Wednesday podcast listeners. We are ready to go on a Better Man Podcast Wednesday edition. I hope your day is going well. I know this, that if you tuned in, you have already gotten a leg up on a lot of people. There's a whole bunch of people that are not listening right now, and those men, I don't know, but you decided to get better, so thanks for joining me. It is considered one of the greatest days in the entire week for a man to get better. Wednesdays, you probably didn't know that. You probably weren't aware that Wednesdays were considered top notch for men to get better, but it is, and studies tell us that for sure. I want to get to our topic today, but first, I want to invite you to engage in the podcast by liking, subscribing, just hitting the like button, heart button, writing a review on the podcast review sites. Anything you can do to do what I would say is increasing the algorithms is always going to be helpful. Anytime you can let others know that we're around. Maybe just share today's topic. At my work, this particular topic that we're going to deal with today is a big deal. We talk about it. Maybe you have recently as well. In order to prepare for a topic I'm teaching on this weekend, I was doing a little bit of research, and what I was discovering, taking time to discover, was this topic of our best yes, the things that we say yes to really versus the things that we say no to. And there's a lot of people that have done work on this topic. There's a female author, Lisa TerKeurst, who has done a great book on this, and I think it's pretty helpful and has been for a lot of people in ministry. But I think it's great for anybody. But I think there are things related to what she uncovered in her book, but also just in general that we can learn and understand. And I think this is a great problem for men. Men overcommit. Okay, so if we say our priorities are God first, if you're married, then the marriage, and then our kids, man, there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that. And I know firsthand, some of you know this firsthand, you can say yes to a ton of things and find yourself in a huge mess. And I've done that. And I've had to learn some of these lessons that I'm going to share with you today. So what are you saying yes to? And oftentimes, what are you saying no to? In the work that I do, I get asked to do a lot of things. I get asked to, I was going to share in my sermon this weekend, but I was looking back on it. I get invited to hundreds of things, probably in a couple months period, just on weekends alone. I get invited to things, and some of them I can do and some of them I can't. Some of them I can say yes to and some of them I can say no to. What I respond in that is going to determine a lot of outcomes in my life, right? The things that are going to be down the line. I'm going to actually talk about that in the thought process of what you say yes and no to. But the author, Lisa TerKeurst, says that, when you're saying yes to something, you've got to decide if you have the financial capacity to do it well, the emotional capacity, the physical capacity, the spiritual capacity, and the relational capacity. And that last one is critical. Can I say yes to this thing and still have the level of execution in my relationships, whether it's my relationship with God or my relationship with my spouse and my family? I think I've shared before, the first few years of my marriage, I said yes to so many things, and I was really just not there like I needed to be for my wife. Then in the first couple of years of our church starting, I was married with 2 young kids, and I was saying yes to everything in the church, and, it was really unhealthy for my home. And so, my wife and I, we worked through this together, and we've been on a journey ever since then to get this healthy in our lives, to make sure it stays, really to guard and make sure it stays healthy. You have to guard that kind of stuff if you're going to stay healthy. And so this can be a real challenge, because I think many times people ask us to do things, and our first response is yes. And if you don't run things as a man through a filter, or woman through the filter of, how this really plays out in your life, it's not going to go well. And so many times the old saying is, right, say no to good things so you can say yes to the best, to the greatest things. Say no to the good things so that you can say yes to the great things. If you're going to get this right, you cannot be a people pleaser, like to all the peripheral people. If you're going to get this right, you got to decide. You're going to decide to please God in your life and make God-pleasing decisions in your life, and you're going to want to please and honor God through taking care of your family as well. Remember, stewarding your wife and your children is honoring God, right? I hope you understand that. So we know that people pleasing leads to unhealthy commitments. Do you make a lot of commitments because you're just trying to make everybody happy? I think sometimes people don't want to admit that. I think guys, especially, too prideful to say, I'm not no people pleaser, but so much of your decisions are all about making other people happy. One of the keys to this whole journey is, of course, I mentioned it before, saying no to really good things to be the best for others. But, and I also mentioned, you can't be a people pleaser, but something else that the author Lisa Turquoise talks about is you need to play it out in the long run. What does this thing look like in the long run that I say yes to? I could share story after story of things I committed to, and then it just kept happening over and over. And it's like, oh my gosh, I did not take time to think about how this was going to play out in the long run. I didn't take time to play it out, see how in the long run it affected my family. People oftentimes try to get you to commit to things or help them with things months out. And that can be very easy to throw something into your calendar a month out or 6 weeks out or 2 months out, because you're like, well, I don't think I got anything going on then. But when you have a long run calendar and you think about long run prices and things you got to deal with, you start to realize, oh my goodness, you know what? I need to be much more careful with how I spend my time. Questions to ask is this journey taking me away from my family? Is this journey taking me away from God? Does this journey support the needs of my wife? Does this match the gifts and the God-given desires that God has put in me in my life? One of the things I talked about is many years ago, I was doing a lot of traveling. I was traveling I had kids and I was traveling. This is a part of that first few years of the church. The first few years of the church, I didn't make hardly anything. And so I needed extra income just to pay the rent, pay the bills, feed the family. So I was traveling, doing this consulting and coaching and all this other stuff in the church world. And I'd get paid, I'd get a paycheck for that. But and I constantly was saying yes to it. And I've shared this story before, but one night I'm laying in a hotel bed and I'm like, this is nuts. I come home and my kids have missed me. This is nuts. And I might make an extra $1,000 here or there, but I'd rather be struggling to make the mortgage payment than missing my kids grow up. And this is prioritization of what's best for your life, what's pulling you away from your kids, or in that case, away from my wife, and we have to pay attention to these things. I love how that author Lisa Turquoise says on her diet when people try to offer her things that are not compatible with her diet, she constantly thinks about, well, I could take a bite of that now, sure, but what does that lead to, And she has a sweet tooth, much like me. And this is why I try to stay away from sweets as much as possible, because I know I could take one bite now, but I know how that one bite is going to play out in the long run for my health. And so I don't say yes oftentimes to things that are sweet. People will say to me, wow, that's pretty disciplined. Not really. What it really is me thinking about things in the long run. That's a great example of the one little bite we offer up in our schedule, the one little thing. What does it actually lead to? More filling of the calendar. So guys, I don't know who needs to hear that you are possibly flooding your schedule with the wrong things. I don't know who needs to hear that you need to say no to some really good things so that you can say yes to some great things. Look, I've disappointed a lot of people by telling them I couldn't be here for this, couldn't do this, couldn't go to this event. I've disappointed a lot of people. But I've honored my wife and my children. I've honored my God, and that's more important. I'll pray. Thanks, God, for the reminders of vision for our life and how it is important to give the best yes. Help our people listening to this podcast. Man, if it's just one or two men who start to really dig into this, it will make a difference. God, thank you for the opportunity to grow in Jesus' name. Amen. I'll talk to you Friday.